Watson, and I'm going to go over table reading, instrumental comprehension, and block counting. So let's get started. Table reading, very simple. A lot of people find it really easy. Just a couple things to let you know. This is usually what they're going to look like, and they're going to ask you a point, such as the points down here. And your goal is to find the points or the number in the actual table. X is, move left to right. They go from positive or negative to positive, my bad. Y's are vertical, they go up and down, and they go positive to negative. So, whenever you're getting a coordinate, they're usually going to be in the XY format, which means it's just easier to start in the XY. So, if you're given 0, 2, find the X first, then go down to the Y. And like I said, pretty self-explanatory. You're just moving really fast. There is a chance that you will get another chart. Now, I haven't seen the purpose of this chart really. Like, you can ignore it. If it is given on there, understand that the number from the first table, which is the table that you would have gotten from the last slide, you would then find the number that correlates to this table. So if we found 23 on the last slide, you would use that number and find it in this table, because your answers are only like your answers would be like this. So then they'd be like, okay, well, what's the answer? And then you'd be like, oh, the answer is B, because it's in the row B. This is usually not really done. You literally just use that first table and you just breeze through it. You have 40 minutes to answer, or 7 minutes to answer 40 questions. That's about 5 to 6 questions a minute. So, pretty easy. Any tips for this table reading? Move for X to Y. Very, very just X to Y. Coordinates are always an X to Y. Don't do YX, you're going to confuse yourself. Like I said, you have 7 minutes to answer 40 questions. Just pace yourself, but be quick. Don't take too long. If you need to trail your finger along the table, trail your finger along the table. Do not try to do it mentally if you're starting to struggle. You think you might be able to do it mentally, but whenever you're in a time crunch or maybe you're fatigued, you're going to start slipping up and you're going to be like, oh my god, I'm getting all these questions wrong, but I know them. Just do yourself a favor, trace your finger along the table if you need to. Some tables also might be much larger, just like a 3 positive to 3 negative. It could be a 6 positive to 6 negative. You never know. If it is like that, just be careful, because usually the bigger the tables, the easier it is for you to make a mistake. Alright, let's talk about instrumental comprehension. Questions are going to look like this. You're going to have your artificial, which I'm going to say H. You're going to have your artificial horizon, which goes into detail about the angle that the plane is taking, as well as if that plane is facing up to the sky or facing down to the ground. So to go a little bit more in detail, blue means that it's head up to the sky, brown means that it's dipping down. This orange is going to be where that plane's nose is facing. So since we're knowing that it's facing down, it's down into an angle, so it's facing like somewhat like this. But once again, you can't really do much information with this without a compass, which brings me to my next point. This is the compass. We all know how the compass works. Hopefully it doesn't look this complex. It usually should just literally be like north, south, east, west in a direction. Usually it should be easy, but this is done online, so maybe they're using this. Pay attention though to the way that this is tilting, because you still have to tilt it in the way that the plane is, faced, so this is where it gets a little tricky. In my opinion, I don't really think it's important to know how to use this H that much, because 9 times out of 10, these planes are faced in different directions. If you can figure out what the direction of the plane is, you don't have to figure out what like tilt or what angle it's at, because there's usually only one plane that faces that direction. Oh, yeah, like I said, use that compass first. Compass, compass, compass. If that compass doesn't work, or there's 2 in the same direction, then use your artificial horizon. But 9 times out of 10, you don't need to do it. Now, what I will say is understand what the plane looks like when it's heading south versus when it's heading north. I think if it's heading north, you won't see the front of the plane, and if it's heading south, you'll see the front of the plane, which is a little confusing, but understand which direction that plane will be facing. Because also, it could also be like north is heading straight up or north is heading down. Just when I was taking the test, for some reason, north was faced away from me, and like you could only see the back of the wings or the back of the plane. Very weird, but you have, I think it's 25 minutes to answer, 5 minutes to answer 25 questions. So you move at 5 minutes or 5 questions per minute. I think that's more than enough time for you to get this done. Like I said, instrumental comprehension is also really easy. Just take your time, use that compass, and you'll be fine. Blockdown's a little tricky, in my opinion. They appear in multiple angles, multiple directions, so these are the multiple ways that they could show up, and there's still more ways they could show up. Each question, there's going to be at least at least four or five. You have 30 questions, and you have to answer them in 4.5 minutes, so you are working like hella fast. You're going to be given a number, so let's say we're given the number 1. They're going to ask you how many blocks are touching 1. Something to know, if it is touching by a corner, it does not count. It has to touch by a face or by a side. So like in this instance, we know it's this block, and this block, so the answer would be 3. There's only 3 blocks touching it. Understand though, that you will not be able to see every single block that touches it. You'll have to make a very, very educated guess on if it's actually touching it or not. So like 3 and 4. We don't know the back of it, but usually it's not trying to trick you. It's just here to understand and want you to know that, hey, these blocks are these are the same height, and this block is being touched by 1, so clearly 3 is going to be touched by this block. Should be just this block and this block right here. And you know, the 2 blocks on the side of 3 and 4. It usually is just going to understand how well you understand, or can you infer the back of it. You should be fine. But once again, you have 30 questions you have to answer in 4.5 minutes, so that's not fine. If you're having trouble visualizing the number of blocks that are touching the designated block that you need to find, think about each face of the block and how many blocks are touching that individual face. It might help you a little bit better, but in my opinion, I just kind of ran through it, and if I didn't understand the question, I would make a very, very, very poorly educated guess, but I'd still would be like, okay, what has to be these 2 numbers, so this is the answer I'm going with, and move on. You don't have time to sit there and wait, because you're guaranteed if you sit there and really try to focus on it, there's a good chance you might not finish in time. Or you might finish with like just enough time. So just answer that question, make a mental note, and come back to it. Due to the hard way of me not being able to make this test on a Word doc, I have provided 2 practice tests, which I am almost 100% certain you've already taken. But if you have not taken them, these are 2 really good sites. I like to use the first site. That's how I practiced a bit. Use these sites, find other sites, but really practice the block counting especially. That is very crucial, and that's the reason a lot of people get some of their points off, because it's block counting. They're not expecting these stupid little figures, and now you having to count stuff and understand how much is touching, and you only have like 20 seconds per question. It's not fun. Time yourself when you do any of this. Time yourself like immediately, as soon as you can. Like, very important. But other than that, there is nothing else that is really important about these 3 topics. Very simple, very self-explanatory. Should not be much of a worry, except maybe block counting if you're not really comfortable with inferring and seeing a shape and understanding how much sides are touching it. Other than that, it should be fine. I will go through these tests later and see if there's a way I can draw on it and record myself doing this. If I can't, I will figure something out so that there is something that we could do for the answers, just in case you're like, how did I get this answer wrong? But it won't be a lot. It might just be like 5, 6, 7 questions from each topic. I generally don't think we need that much, but maybe about 5 from each topic and we'll call it a day. So I will be posting that later today. Stay tuned for that. I'll also be posting the math one later today. I just have to record it because I just got my drawing pad, so I'm able to write on my PowerPoints now. So I hope you have a good day, and bye bye.